new and how can managers engineer service processes. So there are several tools, okay, that are very important in designing new service processes to help assess and improve the design of existing one by the back office or the front office. So one of the tool known as process mapping. Okay, so process mapping is whereby you chart the service processes in order for you to assist in the evaluation, design and development of new or existing processes. It is to capture all the activities and their relationships on paper, which normally requires a team of people who understand the various aspects of the processes. So the reason why we have to do the process mapping, because we want to gain a maximum benefits, okay, which involve into issues mapping and mapping tools, and lastly is turning the maps from descriptive into an analytical tool. So what you do in process mapping is you have to map all the service processes that the customer has to go through. So the reason being said that because you wanted to change the from the descriptive kind of thing, mean to say that only reporting a certain thing into analytical tool whereby you can improve, whereby you can see in which area that you can improve. Alright, so process map can be used at two levels, either a macro level or micro level. So different symbols may be appropriate to use in other circumstances and may be more visuals and meaningful for people developing the map. So if you have your textbook, you can refer to page 2 or 7, whereby we have a traditional operation process mapping symbols. For example, we have the arrow, we have the D symbol, we have the triangle symbol and whatnot. So this one you have to refer to your textbook page 207. So a key question that you need to ask, okay, that can help turn the process map into an analytical tool. So remember, whenever that you do a process mapping, so the main objective that you wanted to do is for you to improve your services. Okay, so for all the data that you gathered from your process mapping, you have to change that data into analytical tool whereby you can understand further and try to improve your services. So these are the 7 key questions that you need to ask. So first, does the process support the strategic intention of the operations? So does each activity provide added value? Is the process in control? So who owns or has responsibility for the process? Is the level of visibility appropriate? How efficient is the process? And how can the process be improved? So 7 key questions that you need to ask before you analyze the data from your process mapping. Okay, so talking about process mapping, okay, so that will be the 7 key questions you need to ask. So now we move into how can service process be repositioned. So it's as mentioned before, we have the 4 main types of processes: capability, commodity, complexity, and also simplicity. Remember, some of the organization nowadays try to move, okay, their services from capability to commodity and commodity to capability. All right, so the small firm of consultants that have built up a local or national practice may seek to become internationally recognized. So within a global company, it may be that an innovative solution developed for an individual customer and can be packaged and sold to a much wider range of clients internationally. So what happened here about capability to a commodity is whenever you have a standardization of certain product, now it can be sold to other person or other maybe other country, okay, as commodity rather than capability. At the same time, okay, some of the organization are also moving from commodity towards capability. So this one can be found in high volume consumer services. Okay, all right, and to avoid the trap of becoming a commodity service, organization may be extend the range of service and on offer, perhaps providing a degree of customization for individual customer. All right, so these are the 2 things. Okay, so how can you strategize yourself for change? Okay, so first you have to build capability through system and training. So what happened here is the organization may be wishing to move towards offering solutions for its customer rather than relatively narrow range of well-defined services. Okay, that will be the first one. Second one is building capability through incremental development. So the word incremental means to say that you develop your capability through little by little, mean to say that not happening drastically as like that. All right, so in this case the organization may take what appears to be less risky approach to building capability. Alright, so moving to a commodity by constraining flexible resources. Alright, so an example of this would be a gourmet chef being asked to work in a fast food restaurant, limited menu restaurant. Okay, and lastly is moving a commodity through investment in process capability. So in this case, the organizations will have identified a market need for high volume version of an existing service or possibly completely new service. So these are how the 4 strategies for you to change or moving from commodity to capability or capability to commodity. So now, how can you manage the gap between market position and operations? Okay, since you are moving from capability to commodity, commodity to capability, so now how are you going to manage the gap? So first, you need to have a customer service department. So a customer service department is basically act as a sweeper to deal with customer complaints and to provide relatively cheap human interface between the customer and the service factory of the back office. So that will be the first one. Second one is name personal contact. So name contacts provide some personalized attention for the individual. We put certain names, okay, for the customer to call in terms of any clarification that they need from the company. Third one will be account or client manager. So B2B services may use account or client managers to provide the point of contact for their customers. So in some cases, these may be operate in a similar manner to name contact described above. Alright, so these are account or client managers. So the fourth way you can do is to change the nature of service. Alright, so process is repositioned in this case. Okay, alright, so for example, from service partnership to DIY, from service factory to service project, for example. And lastly is for you to change the customer expectation. So all organizations need to try to align the customer expectations with the nature of the service. If it is a high volume, low touch processes, it is important to educate the customers not to expect personalized services. Then we go into the another part, how can managers harness technology in service process design. So in common with many services, so changing technologies increasingly mean that the organization deal with customer in many ways. Okay, so there are 2 customer requirements which have impact on the design of the service process. First is the immediate and comprehensive access. Second is known as control. So remember, whenever we have the era of technology, so the customer always wanted things 24/7. Okay, the customer expect to be able to make contact with the service provider in person, by phone or by internet 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, so it will be the first thing. Second thing is about control. So whenever we give the technology to the customer, so now the customer have much more perceived control over what happens. So they can click at anything that they like. At the same time, they can do anything that they like. So mean to say the control is given to the customer.